So, I'm probably the only kid growing up during my childhood that begged and cried to be allowed to learn. I'm not even kidding. I wasn't allowed to have classes many times through my childhood. Like, for instance, let's talk about first grade. When it was time for me to go to second grade, my mother screamed and fought with the teacher not to let me go to second grade. And the teacher told my mother and father that they could be hurting me by doing this and that she was having me in second grade. I passed all my requirements. I'm actually way ahead of the class. There's no reason to stunt my development with a holdback. But my mother had to get her way and scream. Things like that were out of my control. I worked hard to be the head of the class. I passed my grade, but my mother made a decision against everybody's best wishes. And even though my father, the teacher, the programs, the schools, my family members, they all would have said the same thing. If the teacher says that Zach needs to go to second grade, and if Zach is the head of the class, then he needs to go to second grade. But again, my mother had to have her way. But my father, once again, loves the victim blame. He loves it. He's a shithead. It's a victim blamer. That's what he calls me, a shithead. Oh, Zach's a shithead in this way, and Zach's a liar. He's a thief. He didn't try hard enough. He didn't do this. Oh, it's all his fault. That's my father's rhetoric. I'll give you an example. When I was homeschooled, my mother and father did a terrible job at it. I learned almost nothing from my mother's lunatic skills unless my father was there present. And even then, it wasn't enough. And in New Mexico, I had no education whatsoever. Now, whose fault is it that they fell into a scam? When you when a car dealership and a car salesman scams you at the dealership, when the phone guys scammed me for cell phones, iPhones, by getting credit for iPhones, whose fault is it? Do you blame the victims? Or do you blame the people who committed the crime? Or what? Well, my father blames the person who was victimized, the person who lost the most. He says, I didn't try hard enough. Well, let's try some harder. Well, let's see where I could have tried harder. Okay, I'm in New Mexico. I'm 9 years old. I just got food poisoning. I vomited and shit in my bed for a week with a trash can next to me, staying alive off apple juice. The teacher just quit and said that weren't coming back. We've now spent 3 months with extracurricular activities, once in a while, by the way, and most of the time just wandering around this field. So how could I force these adults to hire a teacher, or how can I force my mother and father to take me out of this cabin in the mountains and get me in a real school? What can I do more? My father only has to snap his fingers and I'm out of there. And I'm in a normal school with a normal teacher. So my father can do something very easily and I can get a normal education. All he has to do is put his son in the bedroom and enroll him in public school. That's it. That's simple. But what can this little 9-year-old do to try harder? Well, could I steal a car at 9 years old, drive down this mountain, and chase down the teacher as she quits and go, please come back to the top of this mountain, please come back to this cabin in the top of the mountain, please, I need you. Would that work? Could have I stolen a car and driven down the mountain to try to chase down this teacher after the first 3 months of being in Villa Santa Maria around 2003? Not exactly 2003, somewhere around that year. Maybe 2002. Let me see, I would have been around 9 years old. I was born in 1992. Add 9 to that. You could actually say probably closer to 2001. So somewhere around 2001, 2002, I was probably in New Mexico around those years. This place wasn't built yet. It wasn't properly staffed. They even had to take a guy who already had reports of being abusive to the white young children and little girls. And he was on night staff for that exact reason. But because they were losing people left and right, because they didn't have the money to fully staff this place yet, with the proper people, with the proper education to run a facility of this magnitude, they don't have a classroom for all these different ages. They got kids as young as 6, but only one 6-year old, and he was only there for a short amount of time. The parents smartened up real quick. A lot of the kids were only there for a short amount of time. Then the parents looked around and realized, holy shit. But then there's other parents that only had their kids there, so they didn't have to deal with their kids. Those parents didn't give a shit how many rattlesnakes that crawled off when they got out of their car. They didn't care how many giant red anthill piles. They didn't care how many black bears were going through the dumpster. They didn't care what the education level was. They didn't care that there was a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, and another 9-year-old. I was probably age 10. I got there at age 9, and I left there around age 10. Because when I was in Chelmsford, I was age 11. When I met my next door neighbor and started playing with him in Chelmsford, I was age 11. In Maine, I was just about turning 11, so that makes me between the ages of 9 and 10 while in New Mexico. So, what could have I done to force this program to pay people a lot or build this place quicker? Could have I had them build the pool any quicker? Could have I took a shovel and started digging holes? Could have I killed any staff members so they wouldn't abuse the other kids? No, not all this stuff is not up to a 9-year-old to do. A 9-year-old cannot go out and hire a teacher because one teacher quit. A 9-year-old can't stop the night staff who just got hired for day staff from abusing the little girls in the shower. It's not up to the little 9-year-old Zachary. It's up to the parents and the people who own this place. Now, if the people that own this place is not overseeing the staff, and I can tell you right now, the people speaking to my mother and father, the owner of the facility, who was a psychiatrist or something like that, it was just some psychiatrist that wanted to build this brand new program in New Mexico. So he was doing the fake it till you make it method. That's where you put out a bunch of advertisements saying you have a facility before you actually have the facility open. That's so you can get the money coming in from the parents and then use that money to fund the facility. And then you use the money coming in after that to hire the people on. Then you use the money coming after that to build the building where all your office is going to be. Then you take the money after that to build the building where the parents can be shown around, where we'll have the Christmas parties. That way the parents are all in La La Land. Bring the parents in the new building where the kids aren't allowed. Because that building was only for reception. That was for receptions, for the Christmas party when the parents are invited. That's it, just an empty building 99% of the time until the place is finally open. See, they had a mud lot when I was there. When I go online in 2024, they built another building there. Where the dirt rattlesnake field was when I was there is now a pool. The cabin that we slept on the floor in, meanwhile we had a bunk bed that was perfectly good, and we sat at a picnic table to eat all our meals in a big room with one big industrial fridge. All that has been replaced with one big giant dorm. Then they've added on one more building for the staff members, and they've built over where where two rundown basketball courts were. There was two basketball stands, but there was no cement to dribble the ball, so all you could do was play horse, and most of the kids were too young to play horse against 13-year-olds. So the rest of the kids wandered around in the field, playing in the field with the other younger kids playing frisbee, playing catch, stuff like that. Me and most of the kids eventually would look for weird and unusual animals after we got bored. After, 3,000 hours of playing in a field, it gets old. Because remember, we had no classes because the teacher quit after the first 3 months. But this stuff happens in society with these type of programs and these type of startups. This was a fake it till you make it startup, and the only way that I was going to get an education is if my mother and father opened their eyes to what they were doing and took their son out of this dangerous situation and put him into a school right away. And then maybe it would be nice to look into his physical health. Seeing he has food poisoning, he could have something wrong with him. And he also was talking about an overdose before this, so it might be a good idea to bring him to a neurologist. Plus, the teachers were putting him in physical therapy and speech therapy, and instead there was a sudden change in his nervous system. So maybe that's a good idea to get your son healthy and get him an education. Maybe it's more important for your son to be healthy and get a good education than it is for you to get a vacation. Tell me what you think is more important: selling properties, vacations, or your son's health and his future and his education. If you're a parent, which is more important to you? Your son has now lost 2 years of education. He's redone first grade because your wife just wanted it that way. And then you've moved halfway across the country from Massachusetts to Texas. And then from there, you put your child right away in a place called New Mexico, where he's been abused, and you've now been awarded $26,000 because your son was abused. But they never even went over the level of education your son received. What I think is definitely part of the abuse. I mean, I really needed an education, but I didn't receive one. And then I was home taught straight after that. So, with all that going on, what is more important? Buying and selling properties that make a couple bucks to make some money in New Mexico for the next 6 months or so, go on some vacations, go on the beach, stuff like that? Or do you think it's more important for you to spend a lot of money that you just got awarded in the courts? Because remember, you were planning on not getting that money back. But now you got your money back, and you got what you wanted, an attached child. Now your child's attached to your hip just like you wanted, and you got your money back, or most of it. So now you can easily put your kid and have him go to some neurologist, some primary cares. You can put them in private school. You can put them in any school you want, really. All you have to do is move into an apartment. You can even get a couple different apartments, and then you have a choice of schools. Instead of getting a big giant house, you can live in a couple different areas. You got millions of choices. But wherever you're moving, you would gonna have to get your son an education and health. I mean, any parent with even a half a brain that just wants their son to live and not be in pain and suffer would know that. But if you don't care if your son screams in pain, suffers, falls to the ground, I mean, your son tries to go out to watch fireworks, something that every kid loves, right? Fireworks, flashing, glowing lights, and loud noises and beautifulness, and you're out late at night and great. But your son has epilepsy, so the flashing light at night mixed with the bangs of the noise send him to the ground, and he starts shaking and screaming in pain. Make it stop! Bring me home! Make it stop! As he shakes a ball on the floor, shaking, and then you try to have your kid wait it out. Wait out the seizure. Wait out the shakes, and your son doesn't have a seizure. Luckily, this time, he's able to get to the car in time. And then the parents, they bring him to the emergency room, right? No, they bring him home. And the mother fantasizes and says, oh, it's Asperger's. No, it's this made-up disease. No, it's this made-up disease. And the mother has a good time thinking of every mental illness she's ever heard of and saying that this must be it. This must be it. Without actually speaking with the child to see when this started and when this nerve. And every time the child is spoken to about this disorder, he brings up an overdose at age 7. He says this started at age 7 with an overdose. And then the mother gets angry and takes the son out of that doctor, and the kid never sees that doctor again. Now, there's always a different excuse, the mother says. She moved to Texas because she wanted a change of scenery, not because she was about to be in trouble. No, my mother moved because she wanted a change in scenery. And then in Texas, right after I was at the doctor's office and told them about this neurological disorder and the overdose, my mother put me in New Mexico. But that's not why my mother put me in New Mexico, she says. She says she wanted her son attached to her. She said I have attachment disorder because I showed her a swimming medal that had my name on it. My mother has so many fantasies about me that I'm going around writing my name, my old last name, on swimming medals from other African American kids, when really I wanted in an orphanage at the YMCA for treading water a little longer than the rest of the kids. That's it. St. Anne's Orphanage brought me out in a van. Then we walked to this other building, what I guess is the YMCA. We went into a pool. I treaded water the longest. The other kids got little parachute men. I got a little silver medal, just a little, actually, sorry, not silver, it's bronzish, just a heavy, dark bronzish. They took a little Sharpie out of their pocket, wrote my initial on the back, gave it to me, and told me not to let the other kids steal it. I put it in a Lego box, and then I tried to show it to my mother. That's all that happened. But my mother says I have attachment disorder for this because my last name is on the back of this medal, ZG. So that means I have attachment disorder, my mother says to the doctor. Now, you might be as confused as I am. Why does my name on the back of my swimming medal mean I have attachment disorder? Because my mother is mentally ill. My mother now comes up with fantasy and stories saying I'm writing it on there and it's my old last name, and now she gave me a new last name, so I'm going around putting my last name on stuff to hurt her because I'm out to get her and everybody's out to get me, my mother says. Oh, my son's out to get me, my mother says. My new adopted son is out to get me, my mother says. My new stepson is out to get me, my mother says. I think even my daughter is out to get me. My new stepdaughter might be out to get me too. And I think the doctors are out to get me. And my old boss fired me because she's out to get me. And my coworkers, they're out to get me. And the reason why I'm in therapy is because my son's out to get me. Everybody's out to get me, and it's all their fault, my mother says. Why did she throw away my toys? Because she's jealous of them. You like those toys better than me, my mother says, so I threw them away while you were at school. Because you like them better than me, and I'm jealous, my mother says, so I threw them away. Then she changes her story later and says it's because I didn't clean my room. So yes, my mother is going mental. Completely mental, and not getting any help for it because she's denying, lying, manipulating, changing stories, blaming it on the kid, saying that the kid is less than a dog, so she can do whatever she wants. She even said this openly. He's less than a dog. He's worse than a dog. He's less than a dog. We need to give him more pills. We need to drug him more. He's mentally ill. He's lying. It's a fantasy. He's less than a dog. These are the phrases my mother said, and she also said this one. Yeah, I gave him extra medication that he wasn't prescribed. So what? Yeah, it's okay for me to give him extra pills. Yeah, I can give him any pills I want to. And this was multiple different times. There was a time in front of my sister and my brother-in-law where she admitted to this. There was the time when it happened that she admitted to this. She said this openly in front of my nephew and my father, but my nephew was too young to remember her openly going through the halls. Yeah, I gave him extra Epicac as a punishment. That will teach him. And it was a full bottle. It was 8 ounces of Epicac, and I was only able to pour out about 1. It's definitely less than half, though, at least. I call it half sometimes because it's just shorter to explain it. I don't always have time to fully explain and give all the details to people. So I have to keep it short with them, especially how stressful this is. Like talking to my father is impossible. I try to come up and tell him this stuff, and he's like, nope, never happened. Nope, never happened. Never happened. Nope. How do you forgive somebody like that? How do you go up to your father? And by the way, if I don't start getting medical care soon, I am going to continue getting head injuries, and I am going to get worse and worse. My vocabulary was great, and my speaking skills were great. The only time they weren't great was in the cold. But as I receive more head injuries during these seizures, it gets harder and harder. My life gets painful. Now my knees hurt all the time, but I'm able to work through it. Yes, that's from the seizures when my legs get smashed on the ground. Yes, now when I go for long walks, I feel it. Yeah, it hurts. It will. And what's the next seizure going to cause? And how about if a car hits me? How about if I have a seizure and a car runs over my arm? Then what I will be like? All because my father doesn't want to take responsibility for his choices or his wife's choices. So then I have to get run over by a car again. I have to, again, by the way, again. We're not talking about, oh, he might get run over by a car in the future. No, we're talking about it already happened, and it's going to happen again and again and again and again and again until my fucking father just tells the truth with me, with his son that's given him love. When he got in trouble for stealing from the state and lying about Social Security, and he was going to have to go to court, and he was going to have to pay me $12,000, and then I was going to have to pay the state program $600 for every month I stayed there. When all that was going on, I bailed him out, and I lost my housing. I lost my new apartment. They get me an apartment, by the way. They let me live there. They teach me how to refile for Social Security. They teach me how to fill out for a budget. That's the only reason why I can fill out for food stamps. They would have helped me with Social Security too if my father wasn't lying. I missed out on at least 12 classes just because my father lied. Yes, I wasn't allowed to go to the Social Security classes in the program because I was not on Social Security, is what I was told. Meanwhile, I am on Social Security. My father's just illegally enriching himself with it when it's supposed to be going towards my rent. I don't want it. I don't give a fuck. I just want what's mine. Rent, an apartment, I want my health, and I want to work for a living. That's it. I want exactly what every other human being gets. No better, no worse. I just want to be treated to equal to a homeless person on the street. I want to be a human being. That's all I want to be, is human. But my father doesn't want me human. He wants his boot on my throat, and he wants to call me less than a dog. He wants to call me a shithead and a liar and a thief when I don't do those things. Meanwhile, he steals from me like crazy, and then he won't even admit that he's a thief. Oh, I took your meds, but what happened to my girlfriend's ring? What happened to my fucking swimming medal? What happened to my Vicodin? Were those not things you took without permission? Because that Vicodin I needed. I needed my Vicodin for what the doctor prescribed it for. It's a PRN for pain, not for my mother to mix with booze. Okay, let's talk about the swimming medal. Is that something that they're allowed to take? I won it in the orphanage I was living in. It had my name on it. And it's a swimming medal, a trophy. It's an accomplishment to boost your son's self-esteem. Is that okay to take from somebody else? Okay, how about my girlfriend's ring? You threw away my girlfriend's ring, so I took your wife's ring. Okay, I was a teenager who didn't know better, and now I do. And okay, but how about you? My girlfriend's ring, gone. All my watches that I paid for, gone. All the gifts I got at Christmas, gone. Everything I ever paid for with my own money. Don't forget, at age 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, you had me working at farms. You had me volunteering. So I got those things from hard work. I worked hard for those things. And you stole them from me. But does that make my father a thief? Does that make me a thief that I took that from my father? No. It means that I made a mistake in my teenage years. You get a break when you're growing up in your teenage years. You get to make these mistakes. But if you don't learn from it, and you're in your 40s, and you're living like Georgie, or you're living like Sean, stealing the goddamn nails out of people's floors, and stealing bars of soap out of their bathroom when you could just ask, that is the real kleptomaniac. But me and my father, neither of us are thieves. My nephew for taking my lighter, does that make him a thief and a pyro? Does that make it? My nephew stole my lighter out of my room, then brought it to school. Does that mean he's burning down the school and that he's a thief? Should I call my nephew a thief? No! He's a normal kid. He's loving. He stopped. His mother handled it. It's fine. Well, how about my father? Letting his wife steal my swimming medal and stealing my accomplishments away and then trying to poison me repeatedly. Is she a thief? Is my father a thief for stealing my girlfriend's heart ring? Is my father a thief for stealing things because somebody else made a false complaint? Is my father a thief for taking my rare baseball cards, a collection of 5,000, all of them rare from the 1970s and 1980s? Does that make him a thief? No, he made a mistake. He stole something from his son and threw it away out of anger. And I took something from my father to get back at him from stealing out of me. My father stole from me. He stole over $12,000. My mother passed away. Then he stole my inheritance. His lawyer called me and told me so. So at that point, I took a little bit just so I could get my medication. I wanted some marijuana to relax. That's it. I figured it was a tit for tat type situation, but I learned that's wrong. Playing tit for tat is wrong. Trying to hurt other people is wrong. Being vindictive is wrong. What my mother did to me at age 7 was wrong. What my father did to me at age 16 was wrong. What my father did to me at age 17 was wrong. And what I did was wrong. If I take a coin from my father at age 13 to get cigarettes, that's wrong of me, and I know why. If my father steals $12,000 from me and makes it so I get thrown out of my housing and I miss 12 classes, 12 Social Security classes because he's lied, that's wrong. If my father then gets bailed out by his son, that's right. His son did him a great favor and he owes his son big time for that one. His son will have problems fighting against the state of Massachusetts for the rest of his life for that favor his son just gave to his father. There's two choices here. Either the father can fight the state and pay his son, or the son can fight the state for the rest of his life. And the son gave love to the father, my father, Henry. So, I did that. Does any of this ring a bell? Is it okay now for me to break into my father's house and beat him or steal from him? No, that would be wrong of me. Is it okay for my father to run away into the sunset and do nothing? No, he has a mess to clean up. Is it okay for my father not to call me and not handle his shit for the last 25 years that he created? No! Is it okay for my father to call me names and say I'm just some liar, it's all a fantasy, and mislead the doctors, Social Security, and the state, who I need medical help from or I'm going to die? No! None of this is right on my father's side. The only thing right here is working together to fix this mess. My mother did nothing right. Her poisoning me, her getting me poisoned with pills, her messing around with pills. There's nothing right about that. And me not being able to get help, again, not right. My father trying to keep it that way, not right. My father stealing from me, not right. Me stealing from my father, not right. Me stealing from my father's wives, not right. My father's wives stealing from me, not right. We know wrong from right, so let's do right already. Let's do the right thing. Let's get me medical care. I work hard. I help other people. I do good by my family. And then they do right by me for the shit that's going on here. I mean, I was getting hurt at age 7. I had people asking me my entire life, what's going on? Why aren't you on disability? What's going on? Why are you twitchy? Why are you twitching? Why are you falling? Why are you unconscious? Why everybody else has been in for 2 hours? Why am I waking you up with a head injury out here? This shit has been going on. I mean, people saw me put on jackets in Texas when it's not cold out. People see me have problems moving my legs at age 8. And this all started with Patricia. I'm not making any of this shit up. I'm just telling you what I know to be true and what happened those days. The horrible memories I've been stuck with for life, trying to figure out what does it mean? What does it mean to have a mother lie about you and give you pills and then you get wicked sick? What does it mean for your mother to slip you pills and you get sick on a regular basis? What does that mean? What does it mean if your mother gives you pills and you pass out during your adoption and you're passed out tired during the adoption party? What does that mean to see those pills in your hand, swallow them like your mother tells you to, and then the next day that doesn't happen, and the day before that that didn't happen? So this is only a one-time case. What does that mean to have your mother slip you pills like that at a one-time case? What does it mean to have your mother give you extra Epicac as a punishment? Your mother's bragging about it like it's not a problem, like it's normal. Your mother even talks to it like other adults. Hey, I give my kid hot sauce as a punishment. Oh yeah, I give my kid a bar of soap. Oh yeah, I give my kid extra medicine and destroy his stomach for life. Yeah, what I do is I cause a lifetime of pain. Yeah, fuck your hot sauce, fuck your bar of soap. Try giving them a full bottle of Epicac, not a little Epicac. Give them the whole fucking thing. Give them 8 ounces. Give them extra. My mother's going around bragging about this extra medicine punishment like it's some badass cool mother trick. Oh yeah, I gave a full bottle of Epicac to my kid. Now, why did my mother think this is okay? Well, my mother was dealing with weight loss problems, and she was from a generation of nurses who used to use Epicac to lose weight. Back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, all the way up, a lot of nurses used to use Epicac to lose weight. Believe it or not, because it induces vomiting and you don't eat as much, it can cause weight loss. My mother knew this and kept Epicac in the house at all times, but she stopped doing it after a certain point. But she had severe acid reflux. Now, I knew this when I became an adult, but during my teenage years, I did not know why my mother would think it was okay to give me a full bottle of Epicac. But now I know that that was a thing among nurses. And I also know that this was a thing among nurses trying to lose weight that was struggling to do so. And this was among nurses who were taking medicines to lose weight as well. Well, all those categories hit my mother right on the nail. My mother was trying to lose weight. She struggled her whole life to lose weight. She took medicine to lose weight. She used to say she wanted to go back to smoking to lose weight. So I wouldn't be surprised if my mother was taking large doses of Epicac in her younger years to lose weight. But I really don't know. All I do know is my mother gave me a large dose of Epicac when I was only 7 years old, like it was no big deal. Oh, here's a full bottle of Epicac in a Dixie cup. Drink this thick liquid. Yeah, drink this disgusting liquid and puke, puke, puke your brains out. I don't remember it having a color, though. I remember it not being colorless. Like clear. Huh. I don't remember the thickness too much. I can't really remember if it was thin or thick. I remember it being thicker than water, but I don't remember it being super thick like cough syrup. But I don't remember it having a color. It was thin Epicac. Real clearish. I don't mean thin, I mean clear. It was real clear. Like you look through it. Like I remember it being thick and clear. And this is what my mother did. She showed me an empty cup. She showed me this bottle. She then filled up the bottle right in front of me. And she had the sink running the whole time she dragged me in there so people couldn't overhear what she was saying. She never put any water in the cup. And then she told me, I am giving you straight up, I'm giving you extra Epicac here. It's just Epicac and you are to drink every last dot of this. It's your punishment. You're going to drink this, and I'm giving you extra Epicac. And then this was a talk we had for every year since. That extra Epicac, I believe, is bad. I believe giving your kid 10 times the recommended dose of a medicine is illegal and bad. My mother thinks it's fine to drug a child and slip him pills and medicines and give him extra medicines and make him quiet and let him sleep off an overdose and all these other interactions. My mother thinks these things are fine. I think that letting a kid sleep off an overdose and calling it an allergy attack is wrong. I think giving a kid a full bottle of Epicac in a Dixie cup is wrong. I think destroying your kid's health with pills is wrong. I think making up stories at the doctor's office to try to doctor shop more prescriptions is wrong. My mother should have never been doctor shopping to get me prescriptions at age 7. That could get me hurt, and it did get me hurt.